At 3:47 a.m., the grainy hotel security footage froze. A woman, brunette, slim build, wrapped in a white silk robe, stepped into the hallway of the Carrion Cliff Resort, barefoot and pale. She looked over her shoulder once, then ran. Seconds later, the elevator doors closed behind her. She was never seen again. Not alive. Her name? Naomi Carter. Just married. Just 26. On her honeymoon. Naomi and her husband, Daniel Carter, were the type of couple people envied. They met in college, survived long distance, job changes, and COVID, finally, tying the knot in a dreamy ceremony in Savannah, Georgia. 2 days later, they checked into the Carrion Cliff, a 5-star cliffside resort in Monterey, California, known for its sweeping ocean views and complete privacy. Their room, 417, faced the Pacific. They never checked out. Hotel staff remembered Naomi and Daniel as friendly but reserved. Naomi wore a yellow sundress. Daniel carried the luggage and made dad jokes about minibar prices. They dined in the oceanfront restaurant, giggling over oysters and champagne. The bartender remembered Naomi laughing when Daniel proposed a toast to the last quiet weekend before life rushes in. No signs of tension. No strange behavior. But that night, at 11:22 p.m., the receptionist noted something strange. They asked for duct tape. Said their suitcase tore. But not illegal. It was never brought up again. By the afternoon of the second day, room service knocked on room 417. No answer. Do not disturb sign hung on the handle. Housekeeping returned twice. Still nothing. It wasn't until day 3, when a nearby guest reported a strange, constant, metallic tapping from the room, that staff entered using the emergency key. Inside, empty. No suitcases. No shoes. No phones. No wallets. Just a single half-eaten apple on the dresser, and a handwritten note on. Hotel stationery. We're sorry. We couldn't wait any longer. But here's where things get weird. The note wasn't in either Naomi or Daniel's handwriting. Within hours, local authorities launched a missing persons case. The couple's rental car remained untouched in the parking garage. Their last known activity was a room service order at 10:48 p.m. on night 1. Naomi ordered grilled salmon. Daniel ordered steak. Both trays were cleared. And then, nothing. That is, until the hotel reviewed surveillance footage. On the second night, after Naomi and Daniel had seemingly vanished, a figure appeared in the hallway around 2:11 a.m. Tall, hooded, male. He was seen entering room 417 using a key card. He stayed inside for 27 minutes, then left with 2 large duffel bags. No one saw him again. The timestamp? 36 hours after the Carters disappeared. But it wasn't just his appearance that made investigators uneasy. It was that the man used a staff key card, which meant one thing. He had access, or knew someone who did. Detectives traced every hotel staff member with key access. None matched the man in the footage. They ran facial recognition through national databases. No hits. But a sharp-eyed officer noticed something in the hallway footage, a reflection. In a glass frame. A moment when the man adjusted his hood. A flash of his neck revealed a tattoo. A symbol. Faint, but clear. A chess pawn. Detective Maria Calderon, a 12-year veteran, felt a chill. She remembered that symbol. 7 years earlier, she'd worked on an unsolved case in Oregon. Couple went missing from a lodge in the mountains. Same MO. Gone without a trace. The only clue? Security footage of a hooded man with a pawn tattoo on his neck. The FBI had quietly dubbed him the Bishop. No fingerprints. No DNA. Just disappearances. Until now. According to the Bureau's secret file, the Bishop was believed to be a contract abductor, possibly part of a cult or private trafficking network that targeted couples during honeymoons or retreats. The theory: he didn't work alone. Couples were hand-picked. monitored, isolated, then taken. Some were possibly sold. Others, never found. Naomi's mother, Linda Reeves, spoke to the press in tears. "My daughter didn't run. She didn't vanish. Someone took her." Daniel's parents echoed the same. Daniel was gentle. He wouldn't hurt anyone. And if he ran, he'd tell us. Something's wrong here. Very wrong. Authorities assured the families they were close to answers. But then came a twist no one expected. 4 days after the disappearance, Naomi's sister received a package at her office in Atlanta. No return address. Inside was a USB drive. One file. No title. Just footage. The video began with Naomi's face. Tear-streaked. Shaking. She was somewhere dark. Candlelit. She whispered, "If you're seeing this, please don't believe what they say about us. We didn't run. We were taken. They want to make it look like we broke. But we didn't. They can't break both of us." A voice off-camera whispered, "Time's up." Naomi turned quickly. Then the screen went black. The video was real. No deepfake. No manipulation. But even more disturbing, metadata from the video showed it was filmed 2 hours after Naomi was supposedly seen fleeing the hallway in her robe, which meant either the hallway footage was staged, or she was returned after escaping. Either way, the story no longer made sense. Forensic psychologists were brought in. Their profile of the bishop painted a terrifying picture. Highly intelligent, possibly military background. Ritualistic patterns. Chess symbol suggests planning hierarchy. Doesn't kill for pleasure, kills for purpose. Uses manipulation and staging to distort time, memory, and motive. Most chillingly, he breaks one of them emotionally, then uses the other to bury the truth. A breakthrough came unexpectedly. Maria Vasquez, a housekeeper at the Carrion Cliff, confessed to something she hadn't reported. "I saw a man come down the service elevator. He was pushing a luggage cart. 2 bags. Heavy. Why didn't you say anything? He wore a manager's badge. I thought he was staff." When shown a still of the man from the hallway camera, she nodded slowly. "That's him." But his face looked fake, like a layer over it. It was later revealed that a master keycard had been activated under a deactivated staff login. The system had been hacked. This wasn't an inside job. It was a breach, a setup. Whoever the bishop was, he had the tools to disappear and to make his victims do the same. But the question remained. Why Naomi and Daniel? Why them? Sometimes evil doesn't wear a mask. It checks in quietly, tips well, smiles politely, and sometimes it chooses its victims not because they're weak, but because their love makes them visible. Naomi and Daniel weren't running from anything. They were targeted. And in a world where privacy is a myth and surveillance is blind, the most vulnerable moments become the easiest to exploit. The lesson: cherish your love, but protect it. Because even paradise can be watched. Even honeymoons can be hunted. A week after the footage surfaced, Detective Calderon received a plain envelope on her windshield. Inside, a chess piece, a white bishop, and a blood-stained hotel room key for room 417. Taped to the bottom was a note. "You saw the beginning. Now come find the end." Detective Maria Calderon didn't flinch when she saw the white bishop. She'd seen worse in her career. Dead bodies, burned evidence, grieving parents. But this was different. The bishop wasn't just a symbol. It was a calling card. And it had just been left on her car. The blood-stained hotel room key taped to it, marked 417, wasn't from the Carrion Cliff. It was older, rusted, faded. Stamped into the back was a different name. Sunstone Retreat, Suite 417. That lodge had been shut down 6 years ago after a fire gutted half of the building. No survivors. No suspects. But Calderon remembered that case well, because that's where the first honeymoon couple disappeared. And that's where she had first seen the symbol burned into a doorframe. A pawn. The Sunstone Retreat sat in ruins on the edge of Lake Crescent in Washington state. Technically off-limits, but Calderon had no intention of playing by the rules anymore. She arrived before dawn with only a flashlight, her service weapon, and the key. The building creaked under its own weight. Moss overtook most of the walls. The air was thick with rot. She found Suite 417 on the second floor. The key worked. The door creaked open. Inside, nothing but ashes and decay. But then, something glinted in the corner. Tucked beneath a floorboard, wrapped in a waterproof pouch, was a small black flash drive and a folded newspaper clipping. Savannah couple ties the knot in emotional ceremony. Daniel Carter and Naomi Reeves Carter celebrate at historic Rose Garden Chapel. On the back, written in red ink, "Every bride wears white. Every pawn moves first." Calderon plugged the drive into her laptop on the hood of her car. Inside, only one video file. Time-stamped 3 days before Naomi and Daniel disappeared. The video was static for the first 10 seconds. Then the image cleared. Naomi. Alone. She sat at a wooden table, arms folded, head down. Behind her, a man paced. No hood this time. Face blurred by digital masking. But the voice? Same as the earlier footage. "Tell them what you did." Naomi looked into the camera. Tearful, but resolute. "We didn't do anything. We were chosen. That's all." Wrong answer. A slap rang out. Naomi gasped but didn't cry. "Tell them why Daniel had to go." Naomi clenched her jaw. "Because he wouldn't break." Screen cut to black. Calderon forwarded the footage to federal investigators. Digital forensics uncovered metadata showing the video was uploaded via a private satellite connection, routed through multiple proxy networks tied to offshore servers. Translation. The bishop had planned every frame of this. But something else emerged. On the lower edge of the video, barely visible, was a reflection of a license plate. It was traced to a U-Haul van rented out of Sacramento 2 weeks prior. The driver? Listed as Marcia Harper. A fake identity. But it shared an address with someone else in the system. A real one. Brian Huxley. Former tech contractor for a private defense firm. Discharged after a psychological breakdown. Last seen 6 years ago. The same year the Sunstone Retreat burned. FBI records on Brian Huxley were sealed. But Calderon pulled strings, and what she read left her breathless. He had been part of a DARPA-sponsored think tank on behavioral reprogramming. The goal? Design a system to influence decision-making through non-lethal psychological pressure, targeting memory, obedience, and identity. Project name, Pawn Shift. When the program was shut down due to ethical concerns, Huxley vanished. Some believed he had taken the experiment underground. And now, the clues lined up. Pawn symbols. Behavioral collapse in couples. Ritualistic language, move first, cleansing. But what chilled Calderon most was this. Naomi wasn't just kidnapped. She was being tested. The U-Haul rental location gave one more piece of intel. A drop-off address. A remote cabin property listed under an LLC. Located 2 hours outside Reno, Nevada. Calderon, backed by federal agents, moved quickly. They arrived before sunrise. No lights. No movement. Silence. But as they approached the cabin, the front door creaked open. The air reeked of chemicals. Inside, the walls were covered with posters of chessboard diagrams, timelines, and couple profiles. Photos, maps, marker scribbles. In the center of the room, a single chair. Duct tape on the arms. Blood-stained. And on the floor, a wedding veil. Calderon picked it up slowly. Embroidered initials on the lace edge read, N+D. Next to it, a chessboard. Only 2 pieces left. A king. and a bishop. Pinned to the wall was a note addressed to Calderon. You followed the pawns well, detective. But you missed the real opening. It was never about taking. It was about watching who'd be willing to give. Naomi passed. Daniel didn't. The next move is hers. Bishop. Next to the note, a burned photo. It showed Naomi, staring blankly ahead, wearing a black dress, and a pendant shaped like a knight chess piece. The team raced to cross-check recent sightings, travel records, hospital reports, anything. And then, a hit. Facial recognition flagged a match at LAX airport, just 48 hours earlier. A woman, matching Naomi's profile exactly, was seen boarding a private flight to Zurich under the name Natalie H. She walked calmly, alone. No security alert was triggered. The face was Naomi's, but the eyes, dead, blank, compliant. She hadn't escaped. She'd changed. Sometimes justice isn't clean. Sometimes it doesn't come wrapped in sirens and verdicts. Sometimes it looks like a woman walking freely through an airport, while her soul remains shackled in a room far away. Naomi Carter didn't just disappear. She was broken, piece by piece, until the part of her that loved vanished. The lesson: evil doesn't always need to kill. Sometimes it just rewrites who you are. And for Daniel Carter, his fate was still unknown. But the world now knew. The bishop wasn't done. 3 weeks later, a family hiking in the Sierra Nevadas stumbled upon a small clearing near an abandoned shack. In the middle of it, a wooden box. Inside, wrapped in white cloth, a wedding ring, engraved, "To Daniel, my forever move." Next to it, a cassette recorder. They pressed play. It was Naomi's voice. "I don't know who I am anymore, but I remember this. Daniel didn't run. He fought. And he's still alive. Somewhere." Then a second voice cut in. "And the game's just beginning." The cassette from the Sierra Nevada clearing hit the task force like a bolt of lightning. Naomi's voice was unmistakable. The pain, the confusion, the brokenness. But what stopped them cold was the last phrase. Daniel didn't run. He fought. And he's still alive. Somewhere. No body had ever been found. And now, hope, faint and flickering, returned. The wooden box was rushed to Quantico for prints, DNA, anything. The engraved ring was verified. It was Daniel's wedding band. A single speck of blood was found on the cloth it was wrapped in. O negative. Daniel's blood type. He was alive. Or at least, he had been. Audio experts enhanced the background of the recording. Behind Naomi's voice was the subtle ticking of a clock. Not digital. Analog. Each tick was followed by a subtle chime every 60 seconds. The pattern matched a specific model of grandfather clock, a 1923 Reichenbach Vienna regulator, known to chime in intervals that mimicked chess clocks. Only 12 known in the U.S., 4 in public collections, 8 in private hands, and 1 sold 6 years ago to a reclusive buyer using the alias B. Huxley. Location of delivery: Silverwood Cabin, Utah. Silverwood Cabin sat high in the Wasatch Mountains, nestled on a plot of private land surrounded by miles of pine and rock. No phone lines. No road access in winter. Only a snowmobile or helicopter could reach it. Calderon and a federal tactical team flew out before sunrise. They reached the clearing by 9 a.m. The snow was untouched. No smoke. No signs of life. Until they reached the door. Carved into the wood was a chessboard with one phrase etched beneath: "King's move or checkmate." They entered. The cabin was quiet, sparsely furnished. But one thing stood out immediately. No clock. No ticking. But a small pull ring in the middle of the living room gave away the truth. A trapdoor. Below it, a hidden room. Cold. Metal. Stark. And in the center, a single bed. Shackles on both sides. And a camera pointed directly at it. But no Daniel. No Naomi. Just a screen on the wall, flashing a looping sentence. You arrived too late. But don't worry, he's playing now. In the corner of the room was a monitor, running simulation software. The program was called Cleanse. Dozens of video files lined the folder, each one labeled with names. D. Carter. N. Carter. A. Monroe. T. Blakely. H. Evans. Each video was a psychological conditioning loop, behavioral footage, stress tests, sleep deprivation clips, and among them, one labeled Daniel_alphafinal.mov. Calderon played it. Daniel sat shirtless on a steel chair, shivering, dark circles under his eyes, a thin scar down his temple. A voice from behind the camera whispered, "You're doing well. You're remembering now. Tell me who you are." Daniel stared blankly, then slowly said, "Pawn, bishop, knight, king. I am the last move." The screen cut to black, followed by text. Subject ready for field integration. The term field integration sent the behavioral analysts into panic. It meant one thing: deployment. If Daniel had been reprogrammed successfully, the bishop might now be using him to infiltrate, sabotage, or even kill. A sleeper agent with no memory of who he used to be. Calderon's team issued immediate alerts to all major transport hubs and federal institutions. But it was already too late. A man matching Daniel's height and build was spotted walking calmly through Terminal 2 of LAX, boarding a private charter flight to Istanbul. The name on the passport, Dominic Hauser. Clean-shaven, gray suit, no signs of distress. He scanned perfectly, but facial reconstruction tech showed a 93% match to Daniel Carter. The bishop hadn't killed Daniel. He had turned him into a weapon. Meanwhile, back at Quantico, another message was recovered from the cassette, deep in the magnetic layers, almost inaudible. It had been overwritten, but forensic audio technicians pulled out fragments. Naomi's voice whispered, "They made him forget me. They said love was a weakness. But he still looked at me like he knew." A pause. Then, "If you find this, don't stop him. Remind him who he is. That's how we win." Cross-referencing the simulation files led to one final piece of the puzzle. A folder hidden behind an encrypted firewall unlocked with Naomi's name as the password. Inside, full documentation for Project PAWN, Programmed Autonomous Will Nullification. The purpose: strip identity, reinforce obedience, implant artificial loyalty, reassigned targets based on emotional severance. Target demographic: emotionally bonded pairs, couples, siblings, parent-child. Ideal outcome: use one partner's collapse to reconstruct the other. Daniel wasn't just a victim. He was the prototype. Sometimes, the greatest evil isn't loud. It whispers. It doesn't take away your life. It steals your memory of why it mattered. Naomi and Daniel were proof that love can be both the target and the weapon. They were hunted not for what they had done, but for what they meant to each other. And even in the shadows of programming, in the face of complete emotional erasure, they remembered. A look, a gesture, a name. Sometimes, that's all it takes to shatter control. The lesson: you don't defeat darkness with fire. You defeat it with the memory of light. A week after Daniel's appearance at LAX, a video is leaked online. It shows him in a foreign city, standing in a crowd, expression blank. Then he turns toward the camera, and slowly smiles. A woman's voice narrates, "The king has been placed. Let the final game begin." Suddenly, the feed glitches, replaced by an old wedding photo of Daniel and Naomi. Only this time, the background has been digitally altered. They're standing in front of a chessboard altar. The video hit the internet at 2:13 a.m., posted anonymously. It was only 15 seconds long, but it shook every agency involved in the case. Daniel Carter, clean-cut and unreadable, stood still in a crowd near Taksim Square, Istanbul. A camera panned slowly, catching the moment his head turned to face the lens. He smiled. Behind him, flashing on a massive digital billboard, a wedding photo. Not the original. This one had been digitally altered. Naomi and Daniel stood together, but behind them was a life-size chessboard, and at their feet, blood pooled in the black squares. Then the video cut to black. A woman's voice whispered, "The king has been placed. Let the final game begin." Federal analysts reviewed the footage frame by frame. Behavioral analysis showed Daniel's mannerisms were off. Too still. Too controlled. His smile didn't match his eye movement. They were sure of one thing. He was programmed. But Naomi's hidden cassette message still rang in Calderon's ears. Don't stop him. Remind him who he is. What if Daniel hadn't gone fully under? What if he was acting? Detective Calderon requested emergency clearance to fly to Istanbul with a multilingual agent and facial recon AI. Within 36 hours, she was in country, discreetly scanning public footage and tracing Daniel's every movement through traffic cams. He moved with precision, entered no hotels, paid with no card, never lingered, almost like he wanted to be tracked. Finally, on day 3, Daniel entered a dilapidated warehouse on the edge of the Bosphorus. He was alone. No security. No weapon. Calderon and her team surrounded the location, unsure what to expect. Inside the warehouse, Daniel stood at the center of a single lit room. Empty. Echoing. He turned slowly to face Calderon. His eyes were vacant. She took a cautious step forward. "Daniel, do you remember who you are?" He didn't answer, just stared. She held up a photograph, his wedding day. The real one, not the doctored one. "Naomi, you said she was your forever move. Do you remember that?" His fingers twitched. For a moment, nothing happened. Then he blinked. Once, twice. His lips parted. I didn't lose her. They made me forget." His knees buckled. Calderon rushed forward and caught him. Daniel Carter remembered. Over the next 3 weeks, Daniel underwent intensive neurological deprogramming in a secure U.S. facility. It wasn't perfect. He had gaps, nightmares, a ticking sound that haunted him whenever he closed his eyes. But slowly, with images, letters, and recordings from his life, he reassembled himself. And when he was ready, he said one thing. "I want to find her." Thanks to intel recovered from the Sunstone Retreat and Silverwood Cabin, Calderon's team traced a trail of fake identities linked to Naomi's captors. One alias appeared repeatedly, Dr. Eliza Monroe. She had checked into clinics in Zurich, Luxembourg, and Vienna under various passports, always alone, always distant. And at a behavioral health retreat in Austria, someone remembered her. She sat near the lake every morning, didn't speak, just wrote letters she never sent. Calderon arrived 2 days later. She found Naomi sitting by the water, her hair longer, her posture thinner, but her eyes still deeply searching. She didn't speak at first when Calderon approached. She just asked quietly, "Did he remember?" Calderon smiled. He never really forgot. The moment Daniel walked into that lakeside clearing, Naomi turned slowly. Their eyes locked. Tears filled hers. But he didn't run. He walked slowly, deliberately, and whispered, "Naomi, I'm your king, and I'm coming home." They collapsed into each other's arms. The staff at the retreat said later they had never seen anything like it. It wasn't joy. It was relief. It was survival. It was recognition in the ruins. Back in the U.S., the Justice Department held a press conference. Project PAWN was exposed as an unauthorized black market psychological warfare initiative. Brian Huxley, the bishop, was declared posthumously indicted after a body found in a Swiss clinic was confirmed to be his, with suicide notes detailing his plans to create a new, obedient human model. His network dismantled. All 8 remaining subjects were found and undergoing treatment. Naomi and Daniel were the only couple to survive with their emotional core intact. Life lesson. They were broken, separated, torn apart by science, strategy, and cruelty. But love refused to die. Even when buried beneath programming, trauma, and silence, the bond endured. Because true love is not just passion. It's memory. It's instinct. It's a name that feels like home even when you've forgotten your own. The lesson: what is rooted in truth cannot be reprogrammed. You can erase memory, but you cannot erase love. 1 year later, Naomi and Daniel released a public letter. They tried to erase us. They tried to use our love as a weapon. But it saved us. And now we're using our story to fight back. We are not pawns. We are not subjects. We are whole again. Together. Naomi and Daniel Carter.